God's abundant provision in intangible and tangible ways is an important name of God to remember. Jehovah Jireh. As we think about the battles that we face in life and this next name of God, Yahweh Nissi, He is our banner. It's a weird one for me, but as I started studying, it became really powerful, and I hope you enjoy this little journey as well. I think it has always been a weird name for me to think of God as my banner because I didn't really have an accurate understanding or any connection with a banner being important. I'm like, ooh, yay, a sign or a flag at a parade. I don't get the importance of this or the significance of it. And in the first paragraph of Praying the Names of God, Anne Spangler goes into the history a little bit about how ancient armies carried standards or banners that served as marks of identification and symbols that embodied the ideals of a people. A banner, like a flag, was something that could be seen from afar, serving as a rallying point for troops before a battle. When you pray to Yahweh Nissi, you are praying to the God who is powerful enough to overcome any foe. And then she opened up the story from Exodus 17, 8-16, about how in the battle, Moses was told to raise his hands high, and as long as he did that at God's command, the Israelites were winning. When he lowered his arms, because they were getting tired, they started losing. So 2 friends came along, pulled up a stone for Moses to sit on, so that they could help support his hands, rising high, and in his hands he held the staff. I so love the visual of that story, of the 2 friends coming by his side, giving him something to sit on, and helping to hold his hands high. Who in your life helps hold your arms up in victory? Who helps support you through your battles? Who helps you remember your identity? Who helps you remember that God has already won? After that long battle, Moses didn't just put the staff down and go to bed. He built an altar, naming it Yahweh Nissi, the Lord is my banner. He created a memorial of God's protection and power during the Israelites' first battle after leaving Egypt. Where do we look first when we are struggling or under attack or suffering? Do we celebrate God's victories in our lives? Do we celebrate once the battle's over and recognize God's ability, His uncanny way of winning the battle? He fights for us. He gives us strength. He gives us friends around us to give us strength and help us endure. There's another story about how God fights uniquely when He asked Joshua to have the armies march around the walls of Jericho, silently, with the musicians out front, for days upon days. And in the last day, He asked them to march around a certain number of times and then blow the trumpets. And the walls crumbled. Has God asked you to fight things in strange ways? I'd love to hear those stories. And those are good stories to create memorials for, of how God showed up winning a battle for you in some strange and surprising way. It may have taken a very long time, or it may have been sudden. It may have been obvious, and it may have been hidden. Create some kind of a memorial for yourself that helps you remember the story and that others can see and ask you about this strange thing on your mantle or wherever you put your memorial. Create something in your life that helps you remember and is something that others will notice and want to ask about so that you can share the story of God's faithfulness, His power. Let that memorial serve as a reminder that God is your banner, announcing a victory already won, a rallying point to encourage you through the dark days and the dark valleys and the battles in your life. God is here. He is your identity. He has won the victory. When I walked over to go look at art supplies, I got captured by patterns and colors. And Something about the black and white grid squares and those circles reminded me of armies coming at us. And then right before I decided to start putting marks on this white card, we have the girl with her hands on her hips and the pink hat facing down the bowl popped to the surface. And I wanted to use her just as like a model for drawing a figure, but you're going to see how it transforms into something different. The image of Moses, Aaron, and her standing on the mountaintop watching a battle, arms lifted high as intercessors and cheerleaders, reminding all those battling down in the trenches of whose army they were, whose power they had access to, who was fighting for them, and who had promised the victory, really struck me. And I wanted to create something about that on today's card. So I started by lightly sketching approximate placements and figure shapes of that scene. And then I started tearing out mountainy type shapes with those patterns that had so captivated me at the beginning today. I start creating this landscape of multiple layers. I just experiment with the different patterns and layering them and trying to get some of the colors bouncing around the card. And you'll see that the image of the sky with those seagulls keeps capturing my attention, but it didn't seem like the right size proportion-wise to the card. And so I grabbed my gouache paints and just started smearing and blending them onto the surface to create some cloud-type atmospheric feeling to it and blending it all together so it didn't look so much like straight collage. And in that process, you might notice that I had not waited for the glue to dry all the way, and in all the scrubbing that I did, some of the papers started tearing off, so I just ripped them all the way off and added more paint over it to ease those edges so it wasn't so obvious. I mention all that just because I want you to give yourself permission to experiment, get messy, and go with the flow when things don't work out quite as you expected. I did step away for a while to make sure I gave myself time to let all that paint dry fully, and came back trying again to sketch in Aaron, Moses, and her holding the banner of God high to remind the troops of who was in charge, whose plan would prevail in these battles. But that girl kept capturing my attention and like almost demanding to be in this scene. And I thought about sketching her in, and then I cut different things apart trying to figure out how to work it, and just decided to go ahead and cut out all the background and glue her right in here. And I love that without even planning it, she is standing right on the edge of that dark purpley shadow going into the valley. And then I noticed there was space up on the mountaintop for Aaron, Moses, and her holding the staff high to fit. So it became like she was looking up to the Lord, our banner, as she is about to face a long journey. What unknown journeys and battles are you facing right now where you could use somebody in the distance holding something high to encourage you through the journey, through the valley, through the darkness ahead, to help you hang on to hope, to help you keep your focus on the one who can sustain you, protect you, heal you, guide you, the one who sees you and loves you and is abundant in his provision, mercy, and comfort. And as we head into this unknown journey or face the enemy ahead of us, what is something that we need? Something steady to put our feet upon. So this coming week, let's explore. God is our rock, our firm foundation. Yahweh Nissi.